Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome to the review of the science fiction psychological horror film Backrooms, which is brought to us by the good folks over at A24 and first-time writer and director Kane Parsons, who is a YouTuber who makes the leap to the big screen. This is a phenomenon as of late, and so far so good with these YouTubers who are making these horror films and films in general, proving that YouTube is a platform where you can kind of hone your skills and go on to bigger and better things. Backrooms. The film stars Chiwetel Ejiofor. I can never nail his name. My apologies. Renate Reinsve and Mark Duplass. And in this film, Clark, a furniture store owner, and his therapist discover a dimension of seemingly endless spaces accessing through the basement of the store. This is based off of a game that or a web series, depending on how you want to put it together, but it's something that I knew nothing about. I knew absolutely nothing about Backrooms. So I saw the trailer when it first dropped a few months back, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. It's something I might want to check out. I'm all for some originality in film. That's my thing. And a friend of mine had told me about, oh man, you saw the trailer for Backrooms? I said, yeah, oddly enough, I did. And just excited, just went on this 20, 30-minute tangent about Backrooms. And I'm sitting there like, oh, oh, that sounds interesting. And they were like, yeah, I've been into that for a while. Okay. So I was faced with the decision. Do I go look up this Backroom stuff before I go see the movie, or go into it blind? Well, I didn't fully dive into Backrooms. I did watch a couple of videos on it, and not to say it didn't hook me or anything, I just didn't get into it, but I was still excited for this film, and I wasn't disappointed. This was a really good movie. To say this is a first-time director behind the camera, this looked like a film that was directed by a seasoned filmmaker who has about 5 or 6 movies under their belt. I was impressed with the direction of Backrooms. Now, full disclosure, Kane Parsons is kind of the originator of Backrooms online. I don't think he created it. It depends on what you read. Some articles or some write-ups about it says that he started it, and then you have some that say, well, he didn't really start it, but he's the one that really put it on the map. Either way it goes, he knows this property, and you can clearly see throughout the direction of this film. This is not your typical horror movie. There isn't a lot of blood and guts, even though there is some blood later on in the film, when things are turned up to 11. But it is not the slasher genre or anything like that, monster genre. It's a creep fest, man. This is truly psychological. And you're introduced to that in the opening scene. I mean, the first 5 minutes of this movie, I was so uneasy. I was so uncomfortable because it's a real fine mix of found footage and standard film, and the found footage sequences, I must say, was probably the best elements of this movie. And found footage films have kind of played out. I think they had their moment of shine, and it was done to death for like a 10-year period in the early 20 odds. And all you got was found footage, found footage, found footage. After Blair Witch, it just went crazy with the found footage. Found footage is a good subgenre in horror, but they just did, every movie was a found footage movie in that genre, and it just played itself out. Now, if you use it right, you can still do found footage films. You just got to do something different. And this movie does that. It is found footage. I'm super impressed by the fact it was set in the 90s, actually in 1990 to be exact. This film setting is, and to use a VHS handheld camera as your opening to this film really put the creep factor in me, sitting there and watching whoever it was from this POV angle running through these corridors, these hallways, and going in these different rooms, and you hear something coming, but you don't see anything coming, but you know it's there. And it's like 50 corners in a hallway. So as he's running, he's looking down every little corner, and you're just anticipating the jump scare of the century to pop up. But you know, it's just keeping you on edge the entire time throughout that sequence. And you get a couple of sequences like that in this film. I was creeped out. The scenes that were supposed to be creepy and scary and spooky delivered in spades. Our lead here, Chiwetel Ejiofor. One day I'm going to nail his name. He is awesome, man. This could have easily been a paycheck movie. You know, I mean, he's working with a first-time director in this little indie horror film. You know, this is an established actor after all. He delivered. And now I will say this, and this for all the actors involved, because all of them did a pretty decent job, but I think the screenplay didn't really do him any justice. And this is where Kane Parsons, I think, fell a little short. You know, his direction was great, but the screenplay, a little iffy at parts. You know, some of the dialogue was like, ugh. You know, it's no way normal people speak in certain moments in this film. Nobody talks like that. But our actors, the way they delivered it the best they could. And so you couldn't do anything but tip your hat and respect it. The runtime, which is close to 2 hours, I think this movie is an hour and 52, 53 minutes, something like that, with credits. If it dragged in areas of this film that I don't understand why. You know, I'll say this much about it. I guess it's spoilers or whatever, but it doesn't impact the outcome or anything like that. But the only areas of this film that drag is when they're not in the back rooms. When they're in the real world, outside world, the film drags. I mean, drags. But once we get into the back rooms, oh, the movie is flowing. And it is flowing very well. And it's not like we're not in that dimension long. You know, this isn't the type of movie where we only venture off into these areas for 5 or 10 minutes, 2 or 3 scenes. No, you're in it a good bunch. So that wasn't so much of an issue, but it just outside, it just drug. It drug. And, you know, you had to be on the outside to appreciate it all. But certain moments felt repetitive, especially with our therapist, you know, trying to get her established as a main character here. It just felt repetitive in a couple of scenes. Like, okay, we've been down this road before. Let's move along, you know. But aside from those few gripes right there, I have no other complaints about Backrooms. I thought it was a very well-made horror movie, psychological movie. It's one of those movies that will stick with you. It's one of those ones that makes you think about things in your past and whatnot, and uh, 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 conjure it up in your mind. To whereas, the way the film is and the structure of the Backrooms. Like I say, I don't know about the web series too much, so I don't know if this is canon or this is how it goes. I'm assuming that it is, due to the filmmaker involved in this movie. And so if you don't know, I'm not going to spoil it. But if you do know, I thought that was very interesting and very, very cool what they did there. Makes you want to watch that web series even more. I'm giving Backrooms a letter grade of a B minus. Yeah, this was a cool watch, and I'm on cloud nine right now when it comes to horror. In 2026, let's see some pretty good horror movies, and we're still in May. We're still in May, and all of the horror movies that I liked and enjoyed so far have been these smaller horror movies. The big budget ones, like The Mummy. I liked The Mummy, but it, it wasn't up to the level of Backrooms. I would put Backrooms over that like 10 times over. That it was that good. I would like to know, did you think it was just that good, or did you think it was even better, or you like somebody that I talked to recently was like, what can be so horrifying about empty rooms? Trust me, they find a way. I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. And like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of A24's Backrooms. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.